Welcome to the 8th green here at Glenwild. And this particular green, this is a par 3. You can see the tee boxes back here approaching in, hitting to the west, maybe slightly northwest as you come into this green. Typically plays either into the wind or slightly across. It's tricky to see again from the aerial picture the amount of slope that's off the green. But the cart path here is raised maybe 6 or 8 feet above the green. So this particular hill by these trees has a big, huge slope to it. And these two bunkers on the right are situated below, quite a ways below the green. Very difficult bunker shots to judge distance and speed, etc. Usually you receive a pretty good lie as the ball will typically roll down the face, but you can also get some disastrous lies as well if it plugs slightly into the face or if it lands in one of the back portions of the bunker. Sometimes it may hit the top edge and get a severe ricochet to the back, which just makes that bunker shot that much more difficult. So let's take a look at the Strakaline Green Book and see what we see here on hole 8. So, as I described along this top edge, there's a lot of pink here in the back and a lot of orange and red right through here. There's a couple, some green spots as well, and the green predominantly slopes from left to right. So, let's drop in some possible hole locations. Typically, we see, one or two down here on the front. We'll also see them a little bit more up here in this green spot near the orange and red. That's a typical pin there. Another one would be in this back section, not usually all the way tucked over here, usually a little bit in from there, probably right here. And then usually right here in this blue spot, right in the middle of all that green. And then sometimes this front hole location will kind of move back and forth, but we'll leave it here for the sake of this video. Now, like we have discussed in previous videos, we're actually going to use a 20 by 20 margin for error. Now, this is in yards. So let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay. Now, the reason why we're using 20 by 20 yards, that is 60 feet. The number one player in 2019 was Corey Connors. His proximity to hole average for every single shot that he hit as an approach shot averaged about 28 feet. We're saying for the average golfer, we're just going to go ahead and double that just so that we understand where our margins are because we're playing a conservative strategy here to help us with our scoring. So just like we do in other videos, we're going to go and divide this green in half, front to back, and also in half, left to right. Now, as we maneuver our margin of error zone around the green, we're going to be able to identify where we absolutely do not want to hit our golf ball, and then hopefully from there we'll be able to determine where our number one safe zone location is on this green. So let's take a look at this back hole location and this back right quadrant. We do have a hole location, and in some cases we can even push this around so we have a few different spots where the hole can be located back here. However, this particular side of the green has a pretty significant drop off and some native grass around the back. And then obviously this bunker right here is also going to cause us some significant problems. So I would say back right, generally we should not be trying to hit the ball back here. Again, we're going to be hitting an approach shot in to the green as it is a par 3. So strategically we want to give ourselves the best opportunity to shoot the lowest score. Excuse me. So let's move the quadrant here into the front right and see what we have to work with. Obviously, I think it brings in even greater penalties here. We have a large bunker, 2 large bunkers to deal with, and we have this zone between the bunkers that is a slopey, rough section. Over here in the back left, typically no hole locations back here, although sometimes we'll get one kind of pushed back and more center. But I would say typically there aren't any hole locations pushed into the back left quadrant. And front left quadrant, I would say, receives more hole locations on average. And this is also the safest side of the green. This area back here, I forgot to mention, it does have a lot of big slope, and essentially any hole that would be located across here would be kind of like a short-sighted hole location just because of the severity of the green. So when the slope is so significant from left to right and it's very severe, the chances of you chipping a ball onto the green and having it stay up here is very slim. Typically it will roll all the way over. So as you can see, with the hole locations over here on the right, we would definitely want to play over here to the left, right? There wouldn't be any reason for us to be on the right-hand side for those hole locations. So the left-hand side is much safer. And then if you look at the arrows, how they move left to right across the green, they also move back to front. So if we want an uphill, slightly left to right chip to pretty much every single hole location on this green, we're going to be playing from somewhere down here in the front, right? So even these short shots right here, there's going to be some kind of curve to it, right? So a little curve to these front ones, maybe a little bigger curve as we kind of work our way into these back hole locations. If you're back here, you're going to be chipping a little bit left to right onto the green and having it curve back to the hole, right? So now that we've determined that this is probably the safest zone, let's do a little bit of math on this. So most of the hole locations can be found in the front half of the green. So we're sitting at about 15 to 20 yards, puts us in the middle of the green. So let's say, for example, you shoot this hole right here and it says you're 150 yards, right? Well, we're not trying to land it at 150, because if we land it at 150, we're going to roll into the back section of the green. If we pull it a little bit, we're up on this hill, and now we have this really severe shot coming more straight down, right? So what we want to do is subtract a little bit. So if 150, maybe we subtract 5 or 10 yards so that we're now down here closer to the 140-yard landing area. The tricky thing about this green is also off the front of the green, and I'll flip back to our Google Earth image so you can see that. The front of this green right in here also has a very severe drop-off. So as you can tell, for par 3 green, this can be very tricky for us to shoot a low score because it's a tricky approach with a false front, a drop off into the front section, big bunkering and big hills around with a pretty sloping green from left to right. So I'm going to say our safest location is probably even with the front of the green. So you should always subtract the length of the green. So we know that this is 37 yards from back to front on this green. Half of that we would say is close to 18 yards. So if you know what the center of the green number is, you want to subtract about 15 to 18 yards so that your landing zone is always on the front and favoring the front left, because then from here you'll have a greater opportunity of saving strokes to pretty much any hole location on this green. So we'll go back over here, we'll drop our pin and determine exactly where a safe zone is. We're going to say that safe zone is right here, basically right where the fringe and the green meet, probably just on the green right here, would be the direction in which we're going to try to hit every approach shot every day to this green. I think it's going to give you the greatest opportunity to score, if this becomes your target. So you do your math based on either the hole location, the center of the green number, or the front of the green number, and this will help you to play hole 8 here at Glenwild that much easier. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.